Regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for March the 19th, 2013 will come to order. I'll ask everyone in the audience to stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Alderman Ellis is going to get a tardy slip as he comes in here now, but he is at least here. All right. We have public hearings scheduled now on two subjects. The first one is in regard to Ordinance 13-02 and would establish a permit fee schedule for mechanical work, and this would rescind Ordinance 09-04 in its entirety. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to make a statement with regard to this proposed change? Hearing none, we'll conclude that portion of the public hearing. The second one is ordinance in regard to Ordinance 13-03. This would amend the City of Springfield's Conditions of Service Manual by amending the section entitled Gas and by rescinding certain policies in their entirety and substituting new policies. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in regard to that? Hearing none, we'll conclude the public hearing. Item 1.3 is next, and that's the approval of the minutes for two meetings of the board. One, the regular meeting on February the 19th, and a special meeting dealing with water and wastewater plans, which was held on March the 5th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion of the minutes? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. All right, 2.1, the first item on the legislative portion of the agenda is in regard to Ordinance 13-02 on second reading. This is what the first part of the public hearing was about. This ordinance, as we said, would establish a permit fee schedule for mechanical work and rescinds Ordinance 09-04. Is there a motion that this be considered?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Connie to call the roll.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
All right, 2.2 is in regard to Ordinance 13-03. This also is a second reading, and the second part of the public hearing was in relation to this as well. This amends the city's Conditions of Service Manual by amending the section entitled Gas and by rescinding certain policies in their entirety and substituting new ones. Is there a motion this be considered?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion of that item? Hearing none, I'll ask that the roll be called.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
All right, 2.3 is next, and that is in regard to Ordinance 13-04. This would rezone a 3.5 acre tract at the corner of Childers Street and Central Avenue from R7 residential to MH2, which provides for a mobile home park. This is being done at the request of the owner, Wayne Briley. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, and now that being a first reading, it is required that the ordinance be read in its entirety. Our City Clerk, Connie Watson, will do that at this time.
Ordinance 13-04, an ordinance rezoning a 3.5 acre tract at the corner of Childers Street and Central Avenue from R7 residential to MH2 mobile home park at the request of Wayne Briley, owner. Whereas Mr. Wayne Briley has requested that 3.5 acres of property he owns at the corner of Childress Street and Central Avenue, formerly known as the Easy Living Mobile Home Park, be rezoned from R7 residential to MH2 Mobile Home Park District. And whereas the Springfield Planning Commission reviewed the request at its February 7, 2013 meeting and recommended that the property be rezoned from R7 to MH2. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1. The 3.5-acre tract of property located at the corner of Childress Street and Central Avenue and further described in Exhibit A attached is hereby rezoned from R7 residential to MH2 Mobile Home Park District. Section 2. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you, Connie. Any discussion now on this proposal? We've seen a slide presentation at our last meeting, last regular meeting on this subject. Mr. Mason, is that in your ward?
No, sir.
Mr. Hubbard, I believe it's in yours then.
I think
Easy
that's,
living, that's Mr.
Clay's.
Mr. Sneed, you got that then?
Yes.
Okay, a little closer in there.
Yeah.
He's rezoning.
I'm out of all this.
You have any comments, Clay, on that?
No, that's a good idea.
Okay, all right,
In summary, excuse me,
go ahead.
Mayor, it takes the 3 trailers off of Central, and they are allowed to put them down in the park somewhere, and that's no longer zoned for trailers, is that correct, on Central?
It was never zoned for
Okay.
trailers, that's
So no trailers will go back there?
that's correct. That'll stay a green space on Central, and then the 3 mobile homes that will be removed from Richard Street will be removed permanently, and they could move some of those inside the park. But those sites will now have to be zoned, they'll be zoned within R7 appropriately, and they'll be available for someone to build houses on them at a later date if they so desire. One thing you have to understand too, that it will maintain the number of lots there right now that have mobile homes on them, or the parcels that contain 20 mobile homes. So he's not getting any more mobile home lots, so to speak, even though they're not subdivided. He's not getting any more mobile homes inside the park than he had already, which was 20.
Okay. Are there other questions or comments?
A comment, I've always wanted that to go away because I would like to see that area enhanced. I mean, you know, there's the church there, there's some other decent houses and stuff around, and so I'm glad we're tearing it down. I'm glad we're putting some movement there, but I just kind of wish it'd go away.
Well,
Turn it to residential.
the problem is that the mobile homes are really a conditional use. They were granted that.
Yeah.
And until those are voluntarily moved or they depreciate out or they have to be moved, what you'll have then is you'll have mobile homes coming and going, but, you know, is anyone going to really want to build a house there next to mobile homes, not knowing what was going to go on? And this could become very protracted. So the idea is that this is very close to a commercial area anyway, and it would make a really good mobile home park, formal mobile home park, so we could get more accomplished faster and encourage him to, when a mobile home depreciates, now he really has the option of bringing in a newer mobile home. It has to be 5 years old or newer. So I think we'll get more results in a hurry doing this than doing, I think, what a lot of us would like to do,
Yeah,
but
because
it's not practical.
Some of them are really old and phased out, and at the end of that street, there's a brick home. Miss Louise, I can't think of it, Barbie, you know.
But don't forget now, just because he's got a mobile home in there, he's still subject to blight conditions, and we can order mobile homes removed. The only difference is he'll have the option to put newer mobile homes in.
Are there other comments with regard to this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask the roll be called.
Ellis. Hubbard.
Did we put it on the floor?
Yes.
It was, okay. Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
All right, we move now to item 2.4. This is the other item. This is regarding ordinance 13-05. This also is a first reading. Is there a motion that be considered?
So moved.
Second.
Duly seconded. Now, Ms. Connie, if you will read that proposed ordinance.
An ordinance 13-05, an ordinance amending Title 8 of the Springfield Municipal Code by amending Chapter 2 entitled Beer by rescinding Section 8-211 entitled On Premise in its entirety and substituting a new Section 8-211 to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. Whereas the Board of Mayor and Aldermen desires to give the Beer Board authority to issue on-premise beer permits with exemption from the requirement to maintain a minimum distance from a church or school to otherwise fully qualified eating establishments located within a specific area of the old downtown that includes the square and adjacent blocks. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of City of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1. Title 8 of the Springfield Municipal Code is hereby amended by amending Chapter 2 entitled Beer by rescinding Section 8-211 entitled On Premise in its entirety and substituting a new Section 8-211 entitled On Premise to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. Section 2. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith shall be rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
The item that we're passing around now is a report that the Chamber, a summary of the town hall meeting that was held here a couple of weeks ago with regard to improvements generally in the downtown area, this being one of the items that is suggested for kind of rejuvenation and encouraging new businesses in that. So that's being passed out for your information. Paul, did you want to add something to that?
Well, Mayor, it just is important that everybody knows that as you stated, that the town hall meeting covered a lot more than beer and distance from churches. The intent was to see how we could revitalize downtown, and if you read the summation, you'll see that there were a lot of good ideas and a lot of topics brought up. So the distance from churches for beer sales is just one topic that came up, and it's one topic that we can immediately take some action on if the board so desires. Also, what I handed out to you, Mayor, is some information that the Community Development Department, they went out and measured the distances from certain churches on the square, all the churches on the square, or churches in the immediate vicinity, so that you would have that information when possibly considering this ordinance.
All right, and Ms. Fosnes informed me today that there is, I think there was a gentleman here the night of that town hall meeting who is interested in acquiring or either leasing, I assume it's leasing, the property that D Square was purchasing, the property where D Square Restaurant was located, and that contract is conditioned upon the passage of this ordinance, which would allow beer sales to take place under this overlay. Now, other comments or questions? This is a first reading. It requires 3 readings.
Yes, I have a question, I guess.
Go ahead, Will.
Will this eventually, will we have a public hearing on this, or it doesn't?
Yes, sir.
So I got a
I'm
comment.
having mixed emotion about this.
Okay.
Got a comment, Mayor. We've been down this road a couple of years ago. They were standing out the door to the issue at the public hearing. Just remind folks, history, not very long ago.
Good. That's fine. Any other comments now? Mr. Hubbard? You've never been bashful before. Say what you're thinking.
I am, we have to just deal with the concerns. But as I said, in order to progress, we have to take these things in consideration and not be intimidated by some of the hype is just ridiculous, and I'm just gonna speak my mind. Just ridiculous. I mean, they put this hype out here, you know, people just gonna literally get run over and people just gonna literally tear up the towns. But yet it's still after they say hallelujah and the preacher gives the benediction, they're going to O'Charlie's, they're going to Torino's, they're going to a number of places that sell Patron and everything else. So, you know, I'm about fed up with the hypocrisy. That's the end of my comment.
Mr. Mason,
And I don't even drink.
did you have anything to add, Willie?
Well, you know, I've been here since I've been on board, and I've been on board here since.
You're
it
the
was
senior board member.
I've been trying to chase, you know, beer and liquor away from churches, because I think at first it was 200 feet, right?
It has changed over the
I know,
years.
it's 300 now, so we didn't change that. But, do we have this many churches downtown?
That's the case. Now, some of those are rented spaces in
Yeah.
storefronts.
Storefront church.
Some are
That's what I'm
established
saying
churches
is-
that have been there for years, such as
I've been-
Presbyterian Church.
Like I said, chasing liquor stores and things away from churches. But it seems like churches are chasing the liquor store. Now, I mean,
Exactly.
I've never seen many churches. Nobody ought to be holy around here.
I would have to think it's because the rent district, I mean, it's relatively cheap in the downtown area. It's not as high as a lot of other areas of town, so
I think you have.
since it's a charity, I mean, they're gonna go to the place that has lower rents and vacancies.
Mr. Ellis, you had a concern.
Did this go to the planning commission?
Yes, it did go to the planning commission to inform them, but they have no formal action to take.
Did they vote on it? They did not vote.
They did not make a formal
It
action,
was
but
not formal.
they did not endorse it, nor did they state that they were against it.
All right, are there other comments?
Can I just make a sort of,
Yes, you
from the
may.
planning commission, it's more favorability coming from the planning commission to accept it. Because, you know, if we just look, and I'm just gonna use Nashville everything is coming back in. People are tired of going out in the suburbs. Everything's coming back into the downtown and inner city. And so in order to revitalize downtown Springfield, which is gorgeous, you know, we have to sort of progress with the times. And stop using all these old crazy scare tactics to keep us, you know, a ghost town. You know, they comment.
All right, was there another? Mr. Dunning, you had a statement.
Yes, Mayor. Of course, this is an evolution from something that came up 5 or 6 years ago. Because of the storefronts, we told churches at that time, and we modified the ordinance that said if you come in as a storefront church, the distance requirements aren't going to apply to you, because that would effectively just remove any opportunity in a commercial area for restaurants to come in. So this is another step to consider. Now, I thought it would be useful for everybody to understand that we're adding a paragraph to the beer title, and I think it would be helpful for everybody to know what the actual change in the wording is. And it says, the minimum distance requirement of this subsection shall not be applicable to otherwise fully qualified eating establishments located in the core area portion of the Springfield Central Business District, which surrounds the historic Robertson County Courthouse, a National Register property located in the CC Core Commercial Zone, and further described as within the area bounded on the north by 5th Avenue West. By the way, this is somewhat of an arbitrary boundary just for discussion purposes. Bounded on the north by 5th Avenue West, on the west by South Locust Street, on the south by 7th Avenue, and on the east by South Willow Street.
All right. Now, anything further before we vote?
So you're saying that the churches was aware that this may happen? Or could happen?
Well, I think they're going to be aware now by way of
I mean,
us
you said
discussing
something.
it. I think my only point before was, we had so many storefront churches not people just building a church, but as Mr. Sneed brought up, going for storefront churches for good reason. But on the other hand, that was creating a possible impediment to attracting restaurants on the square. So that's where we are now, and that's where the ordinance lies. Now, the other issue is, whether we're going to allow on-premise. Now, remember, liquor store is an off-premise. I think that's correct. So on-premise, and of course, we don't allow just bars to exist in Springfield. Our beer ordinance addresses that you have to have at least 40% of your sales have to be food.
Let me make myself clear. That's exactly what I'm standing for. Not for some honky tonk, but something that's respectful. So I'll go along with that.
And the reason I say that, the term church may be infringing on place to sell beer or whatever, restaurant. You remember that about 10 years ago, I guess, a church in Crabtree Place.
Yes.
Place that sell liquor right across the street. And they wanted it so bad, they agreed.
That's true.
I mean, it couldn't take away the liquor, it's there to stay. But they still agreed to have the church there, so some kind of way we let it happen, didn't we?
And that's in my ward.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, that's in my ward. It's
I
flourishing.
don't think it was quite that long ago, but it did take place.
Yeah, it's
it's been quite a
flourishing.
while.
I think there's a zoning variance on that too. I believe there's a zoning variance about letting them in there.
And anyway, it happened, so,
Mr. Duddy?
Mayor, I did want to also reiterate that this not only applies to churches, it applies to schools and parks.
Yeah.
We have a greenway
Yeah.
is near here. We've got schools generally nearby. So it doesn't apply only to churches.
Yeah.
But the minimum distance requirement will go away for everything with this ordinance.
that's just in the.
In the
that
square, in that
particular area. All right,
particular
just wanna make that
boundary
clear.
only.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further?
Yeah, just a comment. I think these storefront churches are no less of a church than what we think of a traditional church to be, what we think of a church building with a steeple.
Well, I didn't mean that, if that's what you thought I was saying.
But, I think we need to afford them the same respect that we do other churches, and I think it would be a mistake to pass this.
Okay. Anything, I've tried to give everybody ample opportunity. Mr. Evans.
I just want to refer to what Mr. Hubbard said when we were talking about the trailers, and he said those trailers were close to a church, so we needed to remove them. But now we're going in turn around and vote on bringing beer on the same street as the Presbyterian church.
Did you wish to say something?
Well, the Presbyterian minister was here, and
But
he
he
said,
doesn't speak for, he can't speak for everybody in the church. I mean, they come and go.
I understand. His comment, I think, was something like he felt he could speak for his congregation, so, or words to that effect. So it was just unusual. He was the only minister here that evening that I know of that spoke.
You'll have an opportunity.
Can I speak to my fellow senior citizen? I use that church deal and the trailer deal not as far as the trailers are demeaning the church, but I was talking about, I was using that as it's just not fitting in. That's the way I was going. So I wasn't going, and as far as I respect a storefront like I respect a 500-member church. But you got to understand what we need in order to grow. And you have to understand that half of the folk that's gonna come up here and scream, see, I'm gonna be a realist with it. Half of them that come and scream, I'm gonna see them at Torino's. I'm gonna see them at Old Charlie's, okay? I'm gonna see them. So, let's be real about it. Let's not be hypocritical on one end and bite the bullet on the next end.
I I got you started, so I guess I won't upset you too much now.
I'm gonna let the George-
One way that we could look at this and try to be respectful of all, I mean, I understand what Mr. Head is saying. It's not the issue that the churches are there. It's the issue that there's a consequence to business being developed around the storefront churches. That's the issue. I think one of the things that we could look at possibly and show some respect to the churches is maybe on Sundays, not allow beer to be served, up to a certain point, maybe until afternoon or 1 o'clock or something like that, some sort of compromise that at least will, churches going on that we're not serving alcohol. Just a thing to look at.
That's another possibility. All right, without objection, hearing none, I'm going to ask Ms. Watson to call the roll.
Carnell.
Aye.
Head.
No.
Sneed.
No.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
No.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Tie 3-3, which calls for a failed vote.
All right. This ordinance 13-05 on first reading has failed. Now we move to the administrative portion of the agenda. The first item there is the monthly consideration of the adjustment of retail electric rates by Springfield Electric as a result of a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by Tennessee Valley Authority, which supplies our electricity. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Gardner.
It's a very slight increase of one-tenth of 1%.
1/10 of 1%. All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
That's 6-0.
Okay. Now, 3.2 is a similar request from the gas department for monthly adjustments of their rates. And is there a motion in this regard?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hall?
We went down 1.05%.
Down 1.05. Okay.
Trying to keep your job, but
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 6-0.
Okay. Motion passes. Now, 3.3 is discussion on parade permit application submitted by Covenant Confirmers Ministries to hold a parade on June 1st from 10:30 in the morning until 1 p.m. This would assemble in the church parking lot at 300 10th Avenue East, proceed to Memorial Boulevard, and go out 41 North out of the city limits, returning at 1 p.m. Is there a motion?
so moved.
A second?
Second.
Chief Thompson, you all right on that one?
Yes, sir. This is basically a motorcycle ride. They've done this in the past. We assist them getting out of the city and coming back in, so we won't be blocking any streets for any extended period.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion on that? Please call the roll.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Okay, next is 3.4, to discuss and possibly take action on proposed task order 3A to be performed as a part of the Gresham Smith Partners engineering work for the city's wastewater collection system, which ensures in connection with the compliance with the Environmental Protection Agency's administrative order on consent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Paul, do you want to say anything about this, or you want Roger to?
Well, I think Roger needs to explain what we're trying to do here. I think we've got an opportunity here. Basically, we've got some money available to press forward while some of the subcontractors are in town. We've got some other areas that we think deserve some priority, and I think there's some advantage to getting that work done immediately so that we can evaluate the system faster.
The original task order 3 encompasses not only continued work on evaluating the sewer collection system, but a bunch of other work that's not related to the subcontractors that Gresham Smith and partners have. They have subcontracted with a company called Hydromax to do closed circuit TV inspection of our sewer system, smoke testing, evaluation of other parts of the sewer system, and a CSL to do flow monitoring in the various parts of our sewer system. The flow monitoring became effective on November 21, was for a 4-month time period, so that time period is basically ending in another couple of days. We need to get those flow monitors relocated to certain positions, and this part of what we did is take task order 3 and divide it into 2 subparts. 3A would allow us to, or allow actually CSL to continue to operate their flow monitors. So they've got 28 of them in the system now. They're going to leave 12 of them as is for an extended period of time and put 6 of them in some other places to more narrowly define where we're getting some excessive infiltration and inflow. The other part of Task Force 3A would be to continue to allow Gresham Smith to continue their contract with a company called Hydromax. Hydromax was brought in to evaluate these 3 subbasins that contribute to the overflows at Circle Drive and Old Greenbrier Pike. They have basically finished their evaluation of those 3 subbasins. We have identified 4 other subbasins that contribute wastewater to the constructed overflows that are in our sewer system. We have 3 places where overflows were actually constructed for the purpose of allowing wastewater, or diluted wastewater, during times of period of heavy rainfall to go into a stream rather than back up into 2 residences on 20th Avenue or the Fraternal Order of Police building out on Kenny's Road. Those are the next subbasins that are to be evaluated so we can see if we can eliminate those constructed overflows. So Hydromax, their contract is, as far as task order 1, is basically complete. And now that we would like to get them to move into evaluating these other 4 subbasins using closed circuit TV, cleaning, smoke testing, and that sort of stuff. So basically it's to keep them here in town, because if their contract, task order 1 and 2, expire with Gresham Smith and partners, then they could leave the city and go to another job, and we may not be able to get them back for a while.
All right, you've explained it.
Yes.
Questions now, Mr. Lemasters?
I concur with you of retaining them. Very much so.
Other comments? Please call the roll.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Okay. Item 3.5 is to discuss and possibly take action on a request from Mr. Rusty Fox for compensation with regard to the use of a portion of his land by the Legacy Golf Course. Is there a motion this be taken under consideration?
So
for
moved.
action? Second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I hope you got a chance to read the memo. Mr. Fox, who's here, has maintained for years that the Legacy Golf Course was on a portion of his property, and after some discussion, we had agreed to, in the not too distant past, to have Steve Arts go out there and formally survey the property, and lo and behold, he is correct. We have 12,977 square feet of his property is inside the Legacy Golf Course. So Mr. Fox has made a formal request, which is part of your packet. You have my recommendation. He has a sewer request in there, and we have, pursuant to his request, we did have engineering prepare a cost estimate for what it would take to connect a sewer on the other side of Wartrace from his property and take it underneath the creek to provide that sewer there. Of course, my recommendation is that sewer and the golf course are 2 different things, that we should try to resolve the land issue with Mr. Fox by formally buying that, and also giving him certain courtesies with regard to the golf course, greens fees, that sort of thing. Have no specific recommendation as far as price, but as you'll see that the land where his land is located, we have the back berm of hole number 16, we've got a cart path, and we also have a water well that was drilled when the Legacy was constructed to provide water to the pond that's off 15 and 16. So his formal request is an amount of money straight up, and also he's requesting sewer connection to be able to do that. It is possible to make that physical sewer connection, but as you know, that's over $12,000 according to the memo. So putting it out there, I know you're seeing this for the first time, and I'm not necessarily expecting you to make a necessary decision tonight, but would like to know what direction we need to head in so that we can get this resolved and get this mistake corrected.
Comments? Mr. Ellis?
May I, does this property, I mean, I'm the first time really heard of it, but it crosses the creek, not the branch or the creek or whatever that is that from at the back of his property? Isn't that the 16th hole back there? If we don't find some kind of settlement, we've got a 17-hole golf course, and he's got a 1-hole golf course. You know, because
Mr. Fox, will you rush a few steps forward as
Enlighten us on this.
meeting? Do you want to elaborate on this?
Well, what we're looking at is, of course, I'm not trying to shut the golf course down or anything. My main concern was that the sewer, your sewer main runs through that property. So that gives my 24 acres access to sewer. That's my main objective, is that if I sell it to y'all, that I still am able to get on the sewer. So I'm just asking to put me a manhole across the creek. And I set a small amount of money there for basically stating that I was going to sell you, I was going to get $5,000 for the piece of property, plus expenses of the attorney and drawing it up, which I think Jim could probably do that, you know, some of that. So, but that's basically the big concern why the sewer's mentioned, is because it goes through there, and I'm able to
Good access. All right, thank you, Rusty. All right, Paul, did you formally make that recommendation then?
Well, I can't really say about the amount of money. I think any cost that Mr. Fox has had to pay, of course, we already stated we split some survey costs. We may have split some legal, but I'm not quite sure. But certainly in the spirit of fairness, anything that he had to spend to demonstrate his ownership should not be at his cost. So anything that he's put out there, we know we need to reimburse him. We know we need to pay him for the land. And you do know that his property can be accessible to tie into the sewer at that location on our property. So that is possible and can be done at some point in the future. But my suggestion is, not necessarily at our cost. You've got to keep the dollars here a little straight. This is an issue having to deal with the golf course. And general fund should pay whatever we work out with Mr. Fox, not necessarily the utility fund, which really isn't a factor in here.
Mr. Hubbard.
And I'm going to try to say it as soft as I can, but we impose a pain on the citizen. Let's call it fair and square. And how long has this been? 15 years? 17 years.
It's more than that. It's like 19 years because the golf course is being built in '93.
And I'm really, and I'm justified to say this, I'm really kind of perturbed that the miscalculation occurred. And as a leader, that should be my concern, okay? So whatever we can do swiftly to rectify this and do justice to him, I'm for it.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, and I think, Mr. Balthrop, you may have a comment with regard to this.
Jim, do you want to make a statement on this? This is our city attorney, Jim Balthrop.
I don't think it's something we need to get into for fear of legal action. I really think statute of limitations is long since run for any kind of suit over it. Of course, the thing to do is to pay the guy for his property, but
Fairness is what we're
but
talking.
legally, I don't think there's a big issue.
I missed the last. It's a pain to him.
Yes, legally,
Legally, you said that the statute of limitations.
I think statute of limitations ran a long time ago.
But the thing about it is.
But I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah,
is to pay
government
the
is
guy for his
paying
property.
him.
Right.
And we don't want to be guilty of that.
All right. Willie, do you have any comment on this? Okay. Mr. Ellis?
Oh, it's no question, we owe him we owe him the price of that land. Are we saying that on top of that $5,000, that it's gonna cost the water sewer department $12,000 or some amount to hook on the sewer, and the sewer's on his property, isn't it?
I think if I understood Mr. Fox, what he's saying, and Rusty, please correct me, I think what he's saying is at some point, we have easy access to sewer from his property there. And he's asking permission, when I develop that property, can I take sewer at that location? And the answer is, yes, you can. So, I mean, if that's the question. Now, we put a dollar amount in that just to make sure that you would know what that would cost if it was going to go in at our expense. Normally, developers do it at their own, but I think what he's interested in is having the ability to get that closeness to the sewer, because right now I believe it's on his property, and he wants some assurances that once it's our property, that we'll let him do that.
Go ahead, Russ.
Right now, the sewer runs through that property, so I could, possibly if all this issue wasn't there on the EPA stuff, my understanding is I could make a request and get permission to extend that main. If y'all buy that property from me, then I have no access to that sewer whatsoever. So here's the way I look at it. It turns 24 sewer acres into 24 non-sewered acres. And that's how much the value changes to me.
And
Quite a bit.
It would not be feasible for us to let it turn into a non-valuable.
So
Well,
that's the way
answer is,
I've talked to Mr. Goodman about it, and of course, on my side, he said it's 20 years statute, don't it?
Well, the easy answer is yes, he can get sewer there. We dictate where people have to take their sewer. So yes, he can get sewer there.
Looks like the fair thing to do is to pay him for this. He's requesting $5,000 for the land, and the associated fees would transfer the property to him, and to put in writing that he has access to that in the future.
But, I mean, I'm just throwing this out. If I was the city of Springfield, I wouldn't want someone to come over and dig my golf course up to hook onto the sewer. I would want to go ahead and do it myself. You see what so I'm trying to solve two problems and save me some money too.
Well, you'll have to have a state permit to do it anyway, because you've got to cross under war trace. State permit's going to have to be needed for it, but it's a short stretch.
Well, I mean, I don't know
difficult.
what they would say, but just by experience of doing something, I don't know if they would allow you to expand a tap over there or not. But the way the land lays, if they didn't go under it, they went above it, it would still work for my property.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Nutting, could you elaborate? Hold on, Mr. Fox, don't you stay here. Could you elaborate this estimation that you gave us, this $11,000? Could you walk through it? Is this the estimated cost it would cost to rectify that sewer tap connection?
Yes. Yeah, that's what it is, an estimated cost of what it
$11,000.
is, and equipment and manpower, whatever is related to it. So, I mean, we can perform the work. I don't think that's an issue. Is that the understanding? David, I think your department looked at this. I think we have the ability to do the work.
No,
Okay?
because the sanitary sewer would have to cross Wood Trace Creek. You can't place a sewer at the creek bottom, so we'd have to go below the creek bottom, and in that case, you'd have to use a trenching machine, and we don't have one of those.
Well, if we assume that we had to buy the things that we have to do, I mean, this could be constructed in-house.
It's doable, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The
It's not,
rental of a machine to do.
it's doable, but rental of that machine may change the cost of that asset.
Well, we understand that. We're just trying to get a ballpark figure about how doable this is. It's a simple request, and I thought it was appropriate to get the information so you'll
Well, this
know
is what I'm
what's
saying.
there.
1P said this is an estimate. Mr. Beers, I'm assuming you put on,
Well,
Did he
yeah,
say
it is an estimate. It's a
it's an
ballpark estimate.
okay.
I mean, we're not charging him anything for that.
No, I'm just
I
saying that
just
it
wanted
can
from-
be done. That's what I'm trying to get in my
Yes,
head.
and that's the cost. It will,
Okay.
roughly the cost it would be for us to do the work.
Mr. Ellis, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Okay.
What is, let's break this down to what's the land worth? I mean, what's the value of the land? I don't know how much, 12,000, almost 13,000 square feet. Well, how big is that?
A little more than a quarter of an acre,
But it's a quarter of an acre, okay.
a little bit bigger.
He mentioned, and he just did it this tonight, mentioned $5,000. I don't know that that's unreasonable. I mean, especially since it's part of our golf course. What I'd like to see us do is decide whether we want to buy, whether we're going to buy the land or not, and what we're going to give him, and then give him access to the sewer if it's on his property. I don't see how, I know what we're figuring when we say $11,000, or it's almost 12 something, to do that, but all of these people who have gone to check it and everything else are on a payroll. It's not costing us that much more money. It's just a job that's done during the day. Now, we may have to rent that machine, I don't know. But everybody else that's going to be working out there is employed by the city of Springfield, I assume. And they're going to make 40 hours a week, whether they're working on that or whether they're putting a meter in somewhere.
Amen.
So I don't know how, I see how you figured the cost, but it's not truly a cost. Because those people doing it are employed by the city, unless we go bring in somebody.
All right, well, we've got a, there's a proposal here, thank you, Rusty. Rusty has a request. We have, Paul has shown the cost to the connection to the sewer. We need to come up with a proposal, have it ready for the next meeting or something like that to get this thing ironed out.
I'll give you something if you want.
All right, I'm entertaining a motion.
And I just think this is fair, I hope it is, to everybody. I propose we buy the land. And if you want to put a price of $5,000 on it, it's fine. It's a quarter of an acre. In the city, that's probably, especially if it's got our 16th hole out there, and give him access to, and we will provide him access to the sewer from his property across the creek to the rest of his property.
Okay,
I second it. I think it's fair.
any further discussion?
What does that mean, provide?
That's a good word.
I mean,
Are we building or?
grant right
Allow
away.
him
Grant-
access.
Grant
We
right
allow-
away.
Do what?
Grant right away.
Grant right away, okay. Of course, he'd be coming to our land at that point, so we're granting a right of way to our sewer. Because we own the land if we go through this. Am I correct? I don't know.
Grant access, I guess.
Grant.
Well, we own all the sewer anyway, no matter where it's located. So, and one thing I hope we would consider too, and it's something I think is just overlooked, that any legal or survey fees that Mr. Fox has had to pay to demonstrate his ownership certainly needs to be reimbursed to him.
You add those, Mr. Ellis, to your
Yes, sir.
motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Understood. Is there a second?
We've already got it.
The second would add the legal fees and
concur
what
with
else,
that, all
Mr.
right.
Fox?
That was
Survey.
That was it, survey.
associated fees, okay.
Now, the question has been asked, Mr. Mayor, is what does provide mean? And I guess we need to clarify that.
Maybe it could be reworded. Jim, do you have a suggestion there to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish?
Grant such easement or right-of-way as may be necessary to connect.
Add
All
that
right.
to the motion.
That sound fine?
sounds good, yes,
Both
sir.
the maker of the motion, the record show, and the seconder agree to the
I
wording
agree,
of that?
I agree, sir.
All right, this provides $5,000 to Mr. Fox for the portion of the land that is presently part of our golf course. Takes care of the legal and survey fees, et cetera, and allows access to the sewer. Any further discussion? Is there a problem with that, Mr. Fox?
Well, I mean, like I said, I just don't understand I mean, that's fine, you know, who knows if I do it or not, but, you know, just digging up the golf course, you know, which I guess if y'all are fine with it, I am.
We'll work it out at the time. I don't think it's a big deal.
I mean, the digging up the golf course.
Well, if he's saying if he has to go and access the sewer, you know, he's gonna have to work on our golf course, which, you know, is fine. It's not a problem. Or, you know, we could work with him to get the task accomplished if it gets to be a problem, but certainly we can work that at the time. I think there's just value to know that land next to the golf course, he can sewer it and he can develop it.
That's the key.
All right. Everybody understand this? Please call the roll.
Carnell.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Sneed.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis. Hubbard.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Okay, now, 3.6, discuss and possibly take action on providing assistance in constructing the athletic facilities. That's primarily baseball, softball, I believe, at Springfield High School. This is part of a bond issue that we've taken care of. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Paul explained this, so
All right, thank you, Mayor. This is just for discussion purposes. As you know, the baseball field is almost completed. The softball field is in the process of being constructed. And as you know, as of today, we did receive our bond proceeds, and I'll report on that a little bit later under City Manager's report. But one of the projects we had dedicated some money to was $125,000 for Springfield High School facilities, and I want to discuss a little bit about maybe the projects and the parameters that we're going to operate from. We've talked to the bond attorney, bond counsel with regard to this, and the suggestion is we will not be, these are bond proceeds, they're supposed to be used for capital improvements. We will not be giving the school system or the Springfield High School Athletic Association any cash. What we will be doing is we will go ahead and we will get with them on the specifications and work through the bid process, but all the contracts and all the bids and all the purchase orders have to come through the city. And at that point, then we would need assurance that once we built those facilities and they were satisfactory and they met the terms of the contract, that the school system would accept those for operation and for maintenance. And I've asked, and so that's how I see this happening. And then I have a letter here from Dr. Grimes, and he faxed me a signed copy of that letter, which I'll just distribute to you, stating more or less that if those upgrades are made, that they will be accepted by the school system. And then wanted to, for purpose of the discussion, give you some idea, and I'm not certain that this is an entire possible list, but I think it's a pretty good list of some suggestions here that would move these projects along fairly quickly. And this is also in your, I think we downloaded these today, so these are also on your iPad. You'll notice that a suggestion might be the softball playing surface. That's really the grass and the sprinkler system at $70,000. The softball fencing, estimated cost of $16,000. The backstop poles and netting, $1,000. Scoreboards for both the baseball field and the softball field, total cost about $17,000. And pipe and materials for water and sewer. I might suggest it might be an added contribution if the city water wastewater department would have some time to put those major pipes in at no additional cost. But those 5 items add to about $124,000. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And I know that they're kind of interested in moving, well, they are interested in moving these projects along. So
they're playing baseball on it today. So
yeah.
This other.
Yeah.
Any comments now on this matter before us?
Not being prejudiced, but I got a starting softball granddaughter out there. So.
Well, that's great. All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
All right, gentlemen, the consent portion of the agenda has 4 items before you. What's your pleasure?
Move for approval of total consent.
Is there a second? Second. Call the roll, please.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head. Passed 6-0.
All right, Mr. Nutting, your report, please, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Just passing out to you now some information on the bonds. The bids on the general obligation bond series 2013 in the amount of $11,500,224.25 were received and awarded on Tuesday, March 12th. The closing documents were signed on Friday, March 15th, and the funds were wired for closing today. The bonds were sold at an interest rate of 2.86%, which is very good, and carry a rating of A1 from Moody's Investors Service. Also, last week, a citywide codes enforcement survey was conducted on Wednesday, March 13, beginning at 5 a.m., using 10 two-person teams that drove through the each drove through a designated section of the city to look for obvious code violations such as overcrowding, heavy trash and litter, cars parked in front yards, and indoor furniture outside. Notices were left in the front doors of residents or on vehicles. The information was turned into the Community Development Department for follow-up. A total of 84 addresses were identified as having possible violations. Many of those people will simply make those corrections, and we won't have to pursue any violations. A total of 11 unsafe structures have been removed since January 1st. 7 have been removed by the property owners, and 4 have been removed by the Public Works Department. And as you know, our 20-inch transmission main down 431 was placed in service earlier in the year, and water is now slowly being added to the new elevated tank on Highway 431 South. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. The students that are present tonight, you've got to see a good debate on some issues, and I hope you could remember what was done there, and you see the give and take, and better understand that we don't just routinely vote for things unless we're certain that we're moving in the right direction. So I hope you took that into consideration. What schools do we have besides Springfield High tonight? Anybody else? We had some Joe Burns students here last time. All of you Springfield High? Raise your hand. Back where?
Springfield.
Okay.
Springfield.
All right, just want to make sure. All right, anything further?
Yes, sir.
What you got, Mr. Toder?
We had a very productive National League of Cities convention in Washington, D.C. We had 3 keynote speakers: Vice President Biden, Senator McCain, and General Joint Chiefs of Staff Dempsey. And one thing I had a chance, and if you know me, I made sure I put some personal comments in their mouth about what's happening on the local level. And one thing I stressed, that you guys are sort of delusionally thinking. You're only dealing in theory, but we here on the local level know how the sequester and other things affecting our people. So I want you to know, I put a word out there for us.
Thank you. Tony Phelps, our Director of Parks and Recreation.
We'd like to cordially invite the public and more than 2 of the aldermen to attend the opening day of baseball and softball this year. April 6th, 12 o'clock. We have a very distinguished guest throwing out the first pitch.
You gonna tell us who that is?
Show up.
That's what I figured you'd
Worth
say.
the price of admission.
You promise?
Get him through at the halfway.
Everyone's invited.
All right, anybody else? Just say anybody, okay. Stand adjourned.